what was it? It was like a training. I was like a half-day training thing.
Oh,
I
it was
registered. Yeah, it was in London. And then I couldn't make it because I actually had a 2-day workship with a customer. But
yeah.
ironically, the workshop was in the same building that
That's
you
so
guys were
funny.
doing the training in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was emailing you saying, I'm actually in the same freaking building. I can't believe it.
That's so
And
hilarious.
then I said, I'll come down at lunchtime, or whatever. I'll come down and see you. And I think
Yeah.
by the time I'd finished, you guys had finished and left.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I never got to actually
It was
see
like
you.
so close. Yeah, we were like the
I
same
know.
Wi-Fi signal. Yeah, we were so close.
Exactly. Hello and welcome. My name is Richard Simon. I am Cloud Therapist. This talk is called DeadOps, the future of DevOps in a platform engineering world. It's part of a loosely coupled series of talks. Retrospectively, I think I started calling it the Dead Tech series. This is the final episode in the series, actually, and we're kind of going to be looking at allegedly dead technology. We've been doing that for a while. So you can check out all the other episodes in the Dead Tech series on Cloud's channel. So I'll have a playlist probably as well, probably available already if you're watching this much later, so you can again check out some of the other videos as well. So we've had things like, or topics like, is virtualization dead? Is OpenStack dead? And so on. Yeah, I do have a review episode as well available. So that will be, again, available after this episode. So again, if you're watching this later, it's probably out on the channel already. Check it out. And it will be in that playlist as well. So that one is called Beyond the Dead Tech series, where we basically kind of go back to all the episodes and look at some of the technologies that we've looked at as well. So yeah, watch out for that on this channel as well. And as I said, it will be on the playlist. Now, let me introduce you to my very special guest for this particular talk, Ravi Lachhman. Ravi, how are you doing, sir?
Good, Richard. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while since we've had a chat,
Yeah.
so but always, yeah, pleasure to have you back on the channel. So can we do a quick intro to yourself and a little bit about Harness as well, please?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm Ravi. I work at Harness. We're a software delivery and AI firm, helping engineers reduce toil and friction to get your ideas out there. Currently, what I do at Harness, I have a very interesting role. I lead a team of very talented engineers here at Harness, and we sit between product, customer, and ecosystem. So we sit at that very interesting seams that kind of create there, and really trying to help drive adoption outcomes a little bit more on the Harness platform and to our customers for their goals. Yeah, very excited to be here and just very interesting topic and just yeah, have an awesome conversation with you today, Richard.
Fantastic. So I'm just curious, also, Ravi, how long have you been in the IT industry now?
Well, it's been a long time. I mean, I started as a software engineer. Um, I was fortunate enough to start as an intern at IBM in university. Had multiple firms after that. I would say over 20 years at this point.
Wow.
Kind of in a money-making capacity. Yeah, so in about 20 years. Yeah.
Not in a hobby capacity. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, guys, classical DevOps versus platform engineering. We're kind of going to base a lot of the talk around that, and that's kind of really setting the scene now. DevOps has obviously been going through a lot of sort of upheaval recently, and it's kind of been getting pushed and pulled from many different quarters, including platform engineering, site reliability engineering or SRE, GitOps, and things like that. So all of these are having an effect on how really enterprises kind of go about their business, doing things like agile and software engineering in general. But the main game changer lately, obviously, has been platform engineering. That's kind of where a lot of stuff is being developed and written. Lots of books. The book on it that I have. Well, more on that book later, by the way. That'll be a different talk. But yeah, that kind of platform engineering space is really what's really sort of pushing in that sort of classical DevOps sort of space. So some say really to the point where DevOps is pretty much dead, which is why we've kind of titled this particular talk DeadOps, at least in that kind of classical DevOps form. Anyway, now, before we dive into the talk with Ravi, Here is a quick channel message for you. Did you know that 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet to this channel? Come on, guys, we can do better, surely. So please hit subscribe and the notification bell. It costs nothing, but it really helps me to keep making more videos for you. All right, back to the therapy session. Okay, so talking a little bit, Ravi, about sort of classical DevOps. It is classical DevOps, sort of dead. So let's get that sort of elephant in the room question out of the way first. Slightly uncomfortable question, but do you think classical DevOps, as we've kind of known it for the last sort of decade or so, is effectively dead? What's your take on that?
No, I don't think it is. Actually, um, on a previous podcast I was just on, I had like a revelation. I was like, oh, like because one of the hosts asked the question, I was like, wow, that doesn't happen
Oh,
anymore because the DevOps helped us with that. This would be like a 1 minute answer. So sorry if I get a
sure.
little bit long-winded here. Let's dissect like what in its purest form, what DevOps is, what SRE, site reliability engineering is, and what platform engineering is. And it's a pretty easy explanation. Now, given there's an argument that all of those are cultural shifts, right? And people are hard, but let's just like pause that really quickly. If you take a look at the discipline of DevOps engineering, it is a DevOps engineering, it's bringing in operational excellence into the development pipeline, right? So you're
Mm,
bringing in your typical old sysadmin or operations person to focus on the development pipeline to make that more efficient. If you take a look at site reliability engineering, you're bringing a software engineer to focus on operational problems. You see the swap there? You know, the
mm,
people who were like not usually involved in those things are now becoming involved because they bring great set of skills. To tie that all together, this is my definition of platform engineering. You're bringing a product person into internal tools, right? And so that's bringing usually that product person's external facing. A product manager
mm,
has traditionally been external facing. A software engineer has been, you know, feature facing. An operations person has been uptime facing. But each one of those disciplines benefit from having that skill set kind of
right.
inject that skill into the discipline. So that's kind of my thing. And going back to your answer, no, I don't think it's dead. You know, I think DevOps, I think it's very mature, right? So
Mm,
there's a, you know, an argument could be like, if something's mature, is it dead or is it just there? And,
right.
you know, a little bit of episode foreshadowing, right? I had a question that I was like, wow, that doesn't happen anymore. And you know, thank goodness for DevOps. There was it was a talk, and it was like, oh well, the developers have all the power. You know, they help choose like the tools, and I almost started laughing. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
an old man, and so I was like, I remember that we had no choice, and it was like us versus
Yeah.
ops. Like I constantly got into bickerments with the operations folks. Like, why are you introducing? Why are you writing code? I'm like, this is how we innovate.
Right.
Why is there a 150 page Word document that my laptop IBM ThinkPad T42 to put a little age on myself? It can't even open a Office 2007 cannot open a 150 page 80
Mm,
megabyte Word document on my laptop. Like
mm,
so like there's always like bickering back and forth. I'm like, oh, like that's all, but you don't really that rift can still be there, but it's like it's
yeah,
more unusual to have the rift than usual now,
right.
right? It was like usual to have the rift. And I'm very grateful for DevOps just bringing both sides. It was more of a cultural paradigm, bringing both sides to the table. Like, hey, we both have goals. Like at the end of the day, the goal is kind of the same, right? To do what's right for the customer. But
Sure.
is it uptime goal? Is it a innovation goal? What is it? So my answer is no. I don't think it's dead. I think it's very mature, and we're in a blessed time that is very mature compared to how it used to be.
Right. Cool. Okay, so we got that one out of the way. So, you guys at Harness have talked about DevOps modernization. So, can you kind of explain a little bit more? What do you guys mean by that, and how's it kind of different from the way sort of classical DevOps kind of works, or kind of where
Yeah, we,
where things started?
I'll give you a product-based answer, right? So I spent a little bit of time in product. I had a really great mentor, I'll take a product lens to this, right?
Yeah.
Like a product manager lens to this question. So like anything, there's an equation. It's like you go 0 to 1 when you're trying something for the very first time. When you go 1 to 10, you're able to repeat it at least a little bit more. And then when you go 10 to 100, it's like you're scaling it, right? Like now it's like and each one of those problem sets have like a little bit different of
Mm,
tact,
mm,
skill, expertise, risk involved. Going 0 to 1 is very hard. Like, it's very easy to lose your job. Like, if you got it wrong, you got it wrong. I went 0 to 1 several times. I went 1 to 0 a couple times, in my career, right? Like, you have to reset.
right.
And I think like, if we look at the DevOps, we're well into maturity, but some from for different firms. Maybe they just went 0 to 1. Like, you know what? We agree that DevOps is a thing now. And some most people are 1 to 10 or 10 to 100 right now, right? There's very few 0 to 1. But what it takes to go from 0 to 1 to 1 to 10 is repeatability. But how do you prove that? Going 0 to 1, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You're so new that you do not know what is right or wrong, right?
Right.
Like you're figuring that out every minute of the day. It's like that doesn't look right, and that looks right. That maybe over time, as humans, we'll develop a pattern and we'll develop a sense of right or wrong, right? Like,
Mm.
or it's hard to KPI early things. Harness, we're an outcome-based platform, right? Like we're here to make your outcomes better. Those outcomes are engineering efficiency, those outcomes are reliability, robustness, limiting your risk exposure, blast radius. All of that helps you be a more efficient, safer organization for your internal, for your external customers. And so that's kind of what harness what we mean by DevOps transformation. We're applying,
Mm.
decades of, outcomes that we've seen successful, condensing that into a platform that it's easy consumable for all to use.
Sure. Okay. So if we kind of look at platform engineering as a sort of a way to reshape, not necessarily replace, but kind of reshape sort of DevOps. Um, does does that mean that developers no longer need to kind of worry about the environments where they kind of run their code? So things like dev test, prod,
Yeah.
and things like that, because those are now built and operated by sort of dedicated platform engineering teams. Is that something that developers kind of can essentially let go of now?
I think
And
experience
is
is
that a typical and is that a typical thing for everybody, right?
it depends on like how I can't believe I'm the person who says depending on how much experience. I still remember myself as like, oh, a fresh engineer. Richard and I have been around the block. Like
Yes.
it depends on like what like what they used to know and what they know now. Like ephemeral environments are so like such a rage. Ephemeral development environments, like cloud-based IDEs, like just things that are just instantly available, always repeatable, functions. They invocate in milliseconds. Like you think of like ephemerality as like milliseconds. Like I blink my eye and like four things could have happened just now, right? Versus
Mm,
a more, I hate to say classical engineer, but like folks who had, infrastructure complexity pushed onto them. What's been separated because of platform engineering, and from a product standpoint, they remove infrastructure complexity from a
right,
developer. Like they're
right.
so they're a excellent use of software engineer's time is feature innovation. Uh, your external customer, sorry if I get long-winded again,
No, it's okay.
your external customer does not care about your internal complexity. They could care
True.
less. They can care less of how many thousands of Kubernetes nodes you have, or like how many, cluster
Yeah,
orchestrators you have, or they're like, I just care that, I'll be able to pay my, my bill online without, crashing my computer.
yeah.
That you took the right amount on my Amex card to pay my T-Mobile bill. That's what they care about, right? Like you don't care about what it took. That's very sophisticated, what it took to do that, right? And so
True.
when the whole point of software engineering is iteration, right? If you were like, there's memes like this is what people think I do all day, and like if you ever watch me, Richard, write code, you would think I'm stupid because it's all trial and error. Anybody who's
Right.
written software at scale will tell you it pure iteration. It is all trial and error. And
Yeah.
what does trial and
Yeah.
error take? It takes infrastructure, right? Because there's a
Right.
reason why you do things locally, and there's a reason why you do things remotely. Remotely takes longer. I can do local builds on my machine like 80 times before I submit it to like our CI system to like build and package and things, and our CD system to deploy
Sure.
it, right? So, that there's always like a difference between what's on your machine and what the infrastructure is because of
Mm.
environmental concerns. 2026, those lines are blurred because like you can get access to almost like verbatim like dev prod parity. That's one of the pillars of DevOps, right? Like
Yeah.
you can get almost dev prod parity to like just so finitely close that by the time you go to prod, like you're very infrastructure aware, even though if you're unaware, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
what you're doing is infrastructure centric, but you're not aware of you're doing it because that decision was taken away from you in a positive way by the platform engineering team, right? So that was a long answer.
Right. No, that's fine. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess. I mean, well, there was actually just kind of to bring some parity to that. There was a article that I picked up on the news stack from last year by a company called Aviator. So they're aviator.co or .co. I'll make the link available in the description, by the way, guys. But they were kind of they talked about or the title for the article said, platform engineering versus DevOps misses the point. That was the title of the article. And as you kind of just said, DevOps is alive and well, so they agreed with you on that. They said platform engineering is a subset of DevOps. DevOps versus platform engineering is a red herring, and it's about helping developers ship software with less friction. That's kind of the idea. So I guess I'm kind of there with that. I think the issues that I've had with it sort of in the past, not been necessarily with DevOps, but where platform engineering kind of comes in, fits in, how does it fit into that sort of existing environment? But again, really interesting article, and we'll, like I said, we'll provide a link for you guys on that. Now, let's move on to kind of the developer influence on platforms a little bit. So do developers still get a say in how these kind of platforms are designed and evolved? And if they do, how does that feedback loop kind of work in practice? What have you seen around that, Ravi?
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you another long-winded answer. Here Robbie goes again.
That's okay.
This thing, a smartphone, right?
Mhm.
We all have them. What there's an overall theme of like the consumerization of enterprise IT, right?
Mm,
Like I can say like this is a frictionless experience versus like if I have to use some olden, on-prem piece of software,
mm,
OpenStack, I didn't cough too hard. Like, like it is difficult to use, right? Like, and
mm.
and the consumer experience is boiling into your workplace experience. Now, with that, the expectation's a lot higher, right? Like I have consumer level
Sure,
expectations for the enterprise tools that I use, like, and that boils into it. There's a product company answer and an enterprise answer. So let me try to do both for
sure.
you to answer with
Yep.
two different perspectives. I absolutely do think that software engineers, developers, engineers are internal customers. And if you have a product mindset, they are you do what your customers see value in. For
Right.
example, at Harness, if we were to not do anything that our customers ask, we wouldn't be in business. I wouldn't have a paycheck, right? Like there's a reason why people give us money to help produce outcome. Kind of the same way. Now, the counter argument there will be like internal tools, right? So like, let's say you and I worked at the same place. And one of these days we will work at the same place, but let's say we worked at the same place, like, um, you kind of have a monopoly as an internal tool. They have nowhere else to go. But, as we know in the last, 10 plus years, all the cloud vendors made the shadow IT easy. I can just go spin something up. What are they going to stop me
Yeah.
from using GCP? They could if they don't. They can stop me by not approving my expense report. So I won't do it
Yeah.
again. But like, what are they going to do? Stop me from doing this for the first time, right? And so, um, because of that argument, there used to be a monopoly in these experiences. Now there's so much internal competition. You have to apply that product thinking. Like your customers are important. Well, for platforms,
Yeah.
platform as a service, right? Like, or those platform engineering mindsets, your customers are the engineers, and so you need to have a customer first mindset to be successful. And that's been the biggest change. And even more fire to the engineers because they, unlike your external customers that do not care how you do something,
Yeah.
your internal customers do care very deeply because it affects them every day.
Sure. Sure. So this I guess has kind of been the one of the sort of bugbear points for me,
Mm.
is that kind of creativity versus the standardization that things like platform engineering brings in. So developers are kind of creatives. They like to experiment, push boundaries, and try new tools and so on. So is there a kind of a risk that if we dictate to them using platforms and that kind of approach, that we could end up kind of restricting that freedom and innovation? What's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all a radio dial, right? Like there's the two radio dials. There's innovation versus control.
Mm,
Both are impossible to have to get. Like they're going to have a trade-off no matter what with innovation and control
right.
with the two radio dials. Like how I like to run my team. I'm very fortunate. I'm engineering. Like have an engineering team, but they're all pretty senior. They're all staff plus, like on my team, right? So I was very lucky to get a very senior set of engineers for the problems that we're working on, right? So blessed. This probably won't happen again, but for the how we do it kind of if I were to take a look at, the old platform as a service answer would be like allow them to innovate, but with guardrails. Like I'll even further fine tune that because of like I'm going 0 to 1 in a couple things right now. Like we don't even know what success looks like right now, right? So like we our scope of innovation is like anything goes right now until we figure it out. So we're innovating in a way that we know a guardrail will come, right? Saying let's innovate for now and know
Yeah.
the guardrail will be there instead of like giving people infinite choice. Just depending where they are, you hear a common theme: 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100. Depending on where an organization is, like for example, if we're working on a very old credit processing app, like there, that where is it? That's a well-established paradigm, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
how things are used, and so that's usually brownfield development or like maintenance, and so like the guardrails to be very tight because there's regulatory control over that, right? There was something in the middle, like you're kind of greenfielding something, brownfielding something. It's like it's probably the experience that most people have in their career. Like you're making a major feature in an existing application.
Mm.
That is also a different little bit of a paradigm. Like you can innovate, but the guardrails will come right now. Like
Right.
you have a limited set of choice. Your service catalog and your paths or whatever IDP you use today is limited. Whereas like pure innovation is like you just don't know. And so each one of those will require a little bit different of a tact, right? But each tact is appropriate for the level of maturity and scale that where you're at.
Hey, if you are enjoying the content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That would really help me out. Thank you. So let's kind of pivot a little bit to sort of Gen AI and kind of how it fits
Yeah.
into things like platform engineering and
Mhm.
DevOps in general. Where kind of do you see Gen AI naturally fitting into this space? Is it more around productivity, automation, better developer experience, or have you seen other sort of things that are different
Yeah,
from that?
it's early on. A lot of folks are like early on their Gen AI journey. I mean, just crack open like, just crack open the news or technology news.
Mm,
There are, lots of very strong opinions. There's lots of they're coming for our jobs type of opinions or like the house will burn down type of opinions. So it's
yeah,
hugely polarizing, right? Which any amount of change is there. I was giving this a think in the shower this morning. Like, and if anybody gets this, Richard will get this, right? Like we know each other for such a long time. Um, Technology follows a certain maturity curve, no matter what it
yeah,
is. Like Richard, you and I were building distributed systems before Kubernetes. Like you and I were building big stuff before then.
yeah,
You and I built big stuff when it came out, and you and I continue to build big stuff, right? Even after Kubernetes. Lo and behold, like there will be a time after it, right? No, it doesn't matter. Time will catch up to any
yeah,
technology, right?
exactly.
And and we'll still be building or retire at that point, right? So like it's technology all follows that curve. So like we're in an early adoption phase of extremely exceptionally early adoption phase of Gen AI. It's
Mm,
like you and I using Kubernetes in 2014. It's like just a GitHub, and
mm,
the very first KubeCon didn't have like if we went to San Francisco, like the first one didn't happen until 2015, and that's when like DS said, "Oh, we have Helm." Like the market is so new that we've seen this pattern before. So with that lens, that's why there's so many polarizing opinions because it hasn't been around long enough to
mm,
formulate. Where is it heading, in DevOps or platform engineering? With that frame in mind, right? Sorry for the long-winded answer. I think the human judgment doesn't go away. Like Richard, you will have a job for a very long time because of
mm,
your experience, right? Like on the previous podcast, a little foreshadowing or backshadowing there. Uh, what it does, I'll tell you in a terms of like a self-driving car, right? What
yeah,
it does for what it does for you, and then like how that translates into your job. So I've been fortunate enough that my very first car with like radar cruise control was in 2015. Fast forward to 2026, I have a Rivian that has autonomy. So it actually I use
mm,
it to drive itself to the gym this morning. Yeah, I drove back because traffic was bad. I'm like, yeah, it's early in the morning, like no, any traffic lights. I'll just, let it drive and then I'll take it over in the parking lot, like where it goes. But it was a continuum. It took me a long time to get comfortable with radar cruise control.
mm,
But basically what that does, same thing with having an autopilot on an airplane. It frees you up for a higher cognitive load. Like I'm there to like if there's a problem.
mm,
The same thing with our splitting development. Let's split development operations. I'll take the more sexy topic of development. I think most people will get operations like AI will help expose things to you that are like needle in a haystack. So AI ops has been out, for several years. Like, monitoring vendors have been pushing AI ops since like 2017, right? Like it's been a long, you're 9 into AI ops now. Um,
yeah,
on the development side, it is a little bit different. It does free you up for more cognitive function, but your judgment
right,
is still very much involved. I started using more AI like in the last quarter, right? So I'm pretty fresh in it. I started using it personally. I'm on a weight loss journey, so I use ChatGPT to track my calories, but I'm like, it didn't mess it up that bad. It seems like
yeah,
realistic. And so I was like, well, let me start doing, like I'll give you a very concise answer. Um, I did one thing with Copilot, and I was like, oh, this is pretty helpful. I was writing a series of Spring Boot apps like for
Right.
to help out some operational tasks that we have. But I wanted it to be like deployable in ECS and Kubernetes. And also I wanted someone to use it locally. So like it's been a long time since I had to write wire an annotation and have that propagate to the app. I'm used to like CKA, like I'm used to annotations, I'm used to labels, I'm used to
Yeah.
that. But I'm like, how does it get into the app? Like how does it pass into Spring Boot? So I had Copilot do like one property. I'm like, hey, can you get this one property and show me how to go from annotation to app? Like, oh yes, expose environmental properties like this, auto wire this, and then the bean will be exposed. I'm like, boom. So after that, I took over, right? I'm like, it helped me previous podcast guests,
Yeah.
pay tribute to him. It was a blank start problem. It reminds me
Right.
of like everyone used one deployment YAML. Like, well, like, hey, give me that deployment YAML and go like, modify
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
GenAI is the Genesis deployment YAML over and over again for generic tasks, right? So I use it to
Right.
do like one thing, and then I'm like, okay, this would take me a week to figure out, and now I can go focus on the value of the other function.
Sure. Okay. Excellent. So just kind of taking that a little bit further, if we kind of let's kind of look at maybe Gen AI being
Yeah.
right smack into the middle of our DevOps pipeline.
Yeah.
Can we kind of see things like AI agents, coming in and doing things like fixing security issues in that build that you're doing? Can we see it kind of validating the software supply chain, optimizing the workflow, or even kind of helping to actually project manage that
Sure.
piece of code for us? Is that something that maybe Gen AI in general and sort of AI agents would do you foresee that
It,
happening?
I mean, it can do it. So it all goes down to trust and context and
Mm,
judgment, right? Like these are very human-centric things, right? Like, do you trust the system?
yeah.
There's nothing stopping it from doing it. Like, I'm like, yeah, like, we know like pattern matching as a human is like, well, it's usually security vulnerabilities or like old packages. So like it's very easy for it to get a scan and see if there's a newer package. Like we know the empirical steps, right? To like
Mm,
do something.
yeah.
Um, that is I'll get into a little bit of system architecture design with you. Being a deterministic system, humans trust determinism, right? So we
Right.
trust like we give you an input, we get an output. I ask you the weather stays the same, right? So like
Yeah.
we are we're not trusting of black boxes, right? And that for good
True.
reason, right?
Yeah.
Where black boxes will have more impact is in engineering because engineering has to give you a root cause, right? Like, well, why did that do that? That's not deterministic. So it all comes down to context. I'll give you another example, right? This will get into like, can it be useful? Yes, it can absolutely be useful. Is it
Mm,
the end all? I mean, you can actually turn all that stuff on now, but like, why would you? Most people catch your I track calories with ChatGPT, but every month I have to make a new chat because it gets really, really slow. Like it just reaches the maximum limit of the chat. I ask to like
right.
meal prep stuff all the time. So every month I start over a new chat. But what ends up happening, it loses context from the previous month. So I'm like,
Yes.
hey, like I eat the same like fish dish every couple of nights. Like, hey, why have I prepared my fish like this? I'm like, you like fish? I'm like, oh, I literally spent the last 30 days telling you in
Yeah.
another chat this is the case.
Yeah.
And so
I
that
already
that
said it.
yeah, I swear I said it to you. Go
Yeah.
back and look at it.
Yeah.
Um, that context is important, right? So
Yeah.
let's focus on the developer first. If you're building a piece of software, like usually that context is like policies, like 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 code coverage, you have like stylistic or syntactical things. Now
Yes.
you can load like the LLM or the model with like a prompt text, right? Like in the
Right.
root of your project, you could have like LLM.text, you could have like all the prompts, use me AI dot, MD,
Yeah.
MD
Yeah.
dot text, right? Or AI dot MD, like you kind of like lay out the rules, but it loses the context. But the most critical thing there is context. Richard, you're a long time operator of big systems.
Yeah.
You know that, you have to pay attention to like several things at the same time. And you have to know second and third and fourth letter or fourth order problems, right? Like
Mm,
that's what separates
true.
you as a chief to a junior engineer, right? You're
Yeah.
thinking in four. You're not thinking what happened next. You're thinking
Yeah.
like four orders of operation later. And that's something that's exceptionally hard for AI to get right now, right? Like it's not thinking four levels ahead. It's optimizing for like what's in front of it. And it's very human to optimize for what's next, right? And like or four orders down, right? And so
Mm.
can you provide all the context? Yes. Can you provide all the rules? But the genesis of those rules are humans, right? We came up with the
Yes.
rules. So
That's true. That's true. So if we kind of look at maybe that, that sort of enterprise has been doing that sort of classical DevOps, if you like,
yeah,
and we're saying that DevOps is not dead. So we have to kind of maybe transition them into this new, way of sort of practice and culture
Mhm.
of doing things like platform engineering. Um, how should they kind of think about that sort of transition, without sort of throwing everything away, essentially? What's kind of some
Yeah.
of the tips that you can provide there?
It's all about like automating the outcome, what you want, right? Like the outcomes are hard fought, right? Like most people, I would say everybody wants to do good, like
Mm,
I'm sure there's nefarious people, but like in a white collar, engineering profession, like most people will want to do good in our
yeah,
craft, right? Like what we do. Um, going from a like let's say a a pure, let's say the olden DevOps is
yeah.
mature. Pay respect, to help all of us to get to where we are. It's automating the outcome. A good example is your credit card,
Mm,
right? So like, let's say you wanted a new American Express card.
mhm.
In the 15 seconds that I'm going to explain this, Richard could have picked up his phone, went to, his Amex app and said, you know what, I want a new Amex Platinum because the wife demands her Lululemon credit every quarter to go buy more Lululemon. They do that sometimes. It's not like American Express made any less, in those 15 seconds for it to show up in your Apple Wallet.
Yeah,
It's not like they made any less decisions that they make before. On average, American Express makes about 3,500, there's 3,500 data points they look at to grant you a credit card or not. They do
right.
that in seconds, right? Or like fractions of a second. They've pulled your credit score, they look at your payment history, they look at your purchasing power, the risk profile, and they make a decision and within 15 seconds, boom, you have a virtual card number and your card will be in the mail in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, platform engineering is like that, right? Like you want to automate those decisions. Like
Mm,
for example, there's a reason why if you take a look at a platform, hey, there's a reason why we're limiting you to only to like use GCP. There's a reason why we're limiting you to these four database types. There's a reason why we're doing this, right? So like you're giving enough rope that the decisions are baked in, and
mm,
that's like the kind of the next step, right? DevOps is
mm.
still kind of the detractors will say that yes, it's very human centric. Exactly. DevOps is a way of thinking for people, right? Like that's a fundamental distilled version of it.
Yeah.
Looking at a platform-based approach, you're automating an outcome and automating choice at that point. So hopefully that made sense, right? So like,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, where um, you know, the distinction I think comes, and that's where maybe, like I said, that sort of classical DevOps,
yeah,
sort of enterprise. So I've been doing DevOps, trying to understand really kind of, okay, but what do I do, in order to kind of move into platform engineering? What is the kind of the process to do that? So if kind of automation is the, one of the factors for that, or driving factors for that, and that's obviously, yeah, absolutely makes sense.
yeah,
So what about those enterprises who haven't done DevOps, and they're kind of not, they're kind of coming from a waterfall sort of approach, and that now they kind of want to do, agile and sort of that sort of
oof.
DevOps. What's the
I
where does platform engineering come into that, and how does sort of that tie up with maybe their understanding of the classical DevOps? Well, hang on, you're
yeah.
not doing that anymore. Now you're doing platform engineering.
Yeah, I miss Waterfall. I do so much more work now.
Do you really?
Yeah, bring it back, please.
Oh
I
my
don't have
god.
any breaks. Scaled Agile, like we're a SCAF team, and like
Yeah.
Agile is high burn. There is no breaks. Like, because we're constantly shipping stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, it
True.
used to be, Richard and
True.
I want to go to like South Africa for a holiday. So Richard and I have a plan 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There's no 2 weeks off anymore. Like, there's always a
Yeah.
sprint go. Like, there's always something going
That's
on, right?
true. That
And
is
that's
true.
bring back Waterfall.
Yeah.
But other than that, right? Like, it's all about your appetite for iterative risk, right?
Hmm.
Like there's certain things like my like very 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 last like big project I was on, like Scaled Agile was a thing, but we refused to go Scaled Agile because like there was a very very large federal project. If you got it wrong, the requirements wrong, like it's bad news for a lot of people who have money, right? And so like
Mm.
a lot of people have money generally, in their bank
Yeah.
account. And so like
Yeah.
that you have to get like, the requirements right to like, to push the boundary, but it slows, the iterative feedback that you would get, right? But you had to get it right. Um, if you're in like a very waterfall centric approach, you're probably doing a little bit of like iterative stuff already. Like, every time you meet with a new stakeholder, like you're building incremental confidence, right? Like you don't, for you to build even like the first set of requirements, you're meeting multiple times, but the requirements build themselves over time, right? It's not
Mm.
like, hey, we got all the requirements right. Anybody who did anything will tell you that. There's actually not that much difference in that in Scaled Agile. Instead of you just building the requirements over time, you're also building the features over time to get feedback, right? So like every one of those meetings that you had that you got
Mm.
feedback on the requirements, you're doing that with a little bit more firepower. You're doing that with actual proof, right?
Right.
So instead of like being theoretical, you're doing it with proof. And that's the main thing. People tend to believe stuff with proof than not proof. That's a human thing. Going back to our humans, what they believe, right? So like that's kind of the big thing. I feel like now it's easier because like it's been so mature. Like it's kind of like people tend to agree that yes, we're working together, not working apart. And that's the big thing
Mm.
that DevOps, like kind of taught us, right? Like you both have good goals. One is innovation, one is keeping the lights on. Like they're both meant to like push each other, right? Like change introduces risk, no matter
Yeah.
what you do. Um, kind of the harder question there. I think people are already doing it, right? And unless they're like completely waterfall and like they take like several years to make a decision.
Mm.
Um, th but there's usually safety reasons for that. Like if they get it wrong, people can die, right? Like
Yeah.
that's usually it's all a safety concern. Eventually, like, oh, you know what? We're just moving some canvases around and it's like a UI, race car application. Like, yeah, like code a bug in there, like we'll push a patch in the game and
Yeah.
no one gets hurt, but if it's real, depending on the engineering level of risk and like the ethical layer of risk that you have, like for human life or like
Sure.
detriment, it does change. I know that's a
Yeah.
little bit different of an answer you're looking for, but it's kind of an engineering philosophy type of
Sure,
question.
sure. No, I mean, I think the kind of the cultural stuff is still there, so that still needs to
Yeah,
happen, and also the disciplines that really both sort of those camps, the DevOps and the sort of platform engineering, bring in also kind of need to happen. But
Mhm.
I think definitely, I mean, I'm not a sort of a huge DevOps or rather platform engineering fan, but I can see that you know the things that it brings in are required. I think it's
Yeah,
more as we said earlier about the balance of balancing things out. Really,
yeah.
that sort of creative freedom for the developers, but also bringing in standardization, which is what the enterprise really appreciates as well. So, final verdict. So we said, okay, DevOps is not necessarily dead. Is it kind of simply evolved into something more structured, product focused, and platform driven? Does that sound like a good
Yeah,
way to
that's
put
very
it?
fair. Yeah. Because like every time, like we've been around technology so long, like every time there's like a paradigm shift or like, the semantic changes, like people try to capitalize on it.
It's dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Money's
previous
good.
one's dead, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But buy the new one. We got the new
Yeah.
one here.
Yeah.
Come get it. You're out of buy two to make sure your neighbors think you're cool. Like stuff like that. It's been going on for like, our entire lives here, Richard. Yeah. So like,
Sure.
but I think it's just, it's DevOps is in a I'm grateful that it's in a mature spot. I remember how it was before, right? And I
Mm.
was like, I'm
Mm.
like, I'm getting old. It's like I remember this,
Going back about, yeah, a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just it's the movement that move all of us collectively forward as engineers to
Yeah.
kind of agree to evolve into like, hey, rapid innovation. Innovation keeps getting more and more rapid, just to like be able to take that
Sure.
productivity. Why I don't have a break.
Yeah.
Scale agile, boo.
I know. I know. Far too fast. I agree. Okay. So, a final sort of point. If there's one sort of mindset shift that you'd want leaders and engineers to make right now
Yeah.
about DevOps and platform engineering, what would that be? What that kind of thinking should they have?
Yeah, I think, it's a very, very easy one. Like I think, as humans, we know what's good and what's bad. Do what's good. Very oversimplified answer, right? Like doing what's good in my mind, like from an engineering standpoint, is like reducing friction, right? Like the
Mm,
more toil and friction that you can reduce, it goes back. I'll keep going a little bit, one click down for this end
mm.
essential. Like it goes back to like an internal customer versus external customer argument. Now, if your
Right.
internal customers are delighted, they in turn will delight your external customers, which is really true, right? Like if you take a lot of friction away from somebody,
Makes
they can
sense.
focus on the higher level cognitive tasks. That's where AI comes into play, right? Like comes into play that yeah, I can do a little bit more. Like for example, I was able to like instead of spending a week trying to get one property from an annotation into my Spring Boot app,
Mm,
AI laid out what the two wirings were, and I'm like, oh, now it's all up to me to. I had like 60 annotations after that. I'm like, oh, I know how to do it now. Like I know what like needs to happen here because I
yeah.
knew the
Yeah.
business logic and the control, and what I need to do, right, to like kind of get like the features out for that. And don't and as this new newfangled world of we're so early on Gen AI. Even like the CNCF
Yeah.
has like Agent Con, like this is just a new like that's new this year, right? Like Agent Con and
I
whatnot
think
that they're
so.
having right now. It's like imagine we were a
I'm
KubeCon
losing
20.
track of what CSF is
There's
doing.
a lot
There's
of cons,
too much
yeah. So
stuff
which is
going
good.
on.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so like imagine, for those who've been around a little bit longer, like Imagine that we're going to the first KubeCon in 2015. Imagine how different Kubernetes was, right?
Mm.
Between,
Oh yeah.
huge. Helm ain't even out right now. Like Helm is
Mm.
like, like there's a time before Helm, like what? Like
Yeah.
what? Like what
Yeah.
VH, before Helm? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like that was, we're kind of in the same way. And like we've seen the technology curve happen over and over and over, technology
Mm.
adoption, like the curve. It's don't like humans are quite important. I will steal this idea from our CEO Jyoti. He said it very beautifully. He was around when Java was coming out, right? And
Mhm.
he wrote that, in the 90s, the Java wave, and people thought Java would be the end of software engineering. I started my career in Java, right? So I'm like, oh,
Okay.
like Java was always there. What are you talking about? There's time for Java. Like, huh? Like
Yeah.
C? Like punch cards? What are you writing in before that? Um, and he was like, but no, it actually, if you look at the number of software engineers there were in
Yeah.
1994 versus how there are now, the argument is there's a lot more software engineers now than there were in 1994, right?
Right.
Like, or like 95 when Sun was coming out, right? And so like it just opens the aperture for innovation to go move forward quicker. And so it's not
Mm.
like there's less of a demand for innovation. There's infinite demand for innovation in this world. Just keep that in mind. But who's important? The human. Like
Yeah.
there's not like we less of us. There's not like less software engineering jobs now. Same with AI. Like there'll be just the level of abstraction you have to do. It used to be you have to worry about memory allocation, not anymore. Even if you take a look at an engineer in 2026, they need
Yeah.
not worry where their code runs. They use a function or they have a cloud development
Yeah.
environment. But they're able to innovate more than they were, that I was feature to feature 15 years ago. So that's my advice. Like, cherish it. Take a break once in a while. Don't burn your team out. Let's give it a shot.
I
Go to South
agree.
Africa, see Cape Town. It's beautiful. Yeah, do that. So,
I agree. I agree. Okay, so there we have it, folks. DevOps is officially not dead. It's just maybe moved on to another plane, like a Jedi ghost or something. I don't know. But Ravi, thank you ever so much for doing this talk with me. I really appreciate it. Always great to have you on, and yeah, always learn something new. I'm sure my audience appreciate that as well. All the details on Ravi and Harness and what kind of Ravi gets up to and stuff like that will be in the description of this video, so go and check that out. Please check out all the other episodes in this Dead Tech series. As I said, there's a playlist at some point as well, so either now or later on the channel, so do check that out. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That's really useful for me. That kind of helps me out to make more of this this stuff for you. That's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support me. You may also want to check out some of the other videos on this channel. Bye for now.